Here, two quick areas I want to explore. The first one is retail workers. They are leading in as far as the infection rate is concerned. Why is this?
So obviously during level lockdown 5, what happens is that, movement of people during lockdown 5, and of course retail, you started off with our health space, so clinics and hospitals, and then of course police stations. I've got a meeting this morning with Minister Bikitsele about the police and infections, any front line, that's where infections happen. And of course, that's why we've got to mitigate those risks. And that's why we've changed our strategy around to hotspots. And so it moves now beyond, retail or any front line. And of course, that's why everybody across the world and of course across this country talks about those golden rules, masks and social distancing, hygiene practices. We've got to make sure that we enact them. And we do know that, there's often times where we see people are not actually following the rules around the social distancing. And of course, anywhere where we find congestion, that's where you will find the virus spread.
Yeah. Final question to you, Premier. The province at the moment, you were quoted as saying that you are still firmly behind the idea that the province should go down to level 3 of the lockdown, whilst at the same time you are trying to balance the need for the health safety responses with community and job responses. I want to ask you this question. There is a professor here at Wits University, Alex van den Heever, and he was quoted on Wednesday as saying the following, and I quote, "Open the economy, densely populated areas are always going to end up with a high prevalence." Do you go along with that train of thought?
Well, of course. I mean, we spoke about the retail space. That was where populations came together, people were congregating, and that was where the spread was happening. Absolutely, we know that it is in all of our cities in South Africa. We know that it is going to be in those hotspot areas where people are densely populated that the virus will spread more. But of course, remember, the lockdown is a blunt instrument, and we use that in order to get our health response right. So we've done that.
Yeah.
We've got our health response to the space that we needed based on the trajectory of this virus. On the peak, we understand how many beds we would need.
Yeah.
We then come back and set up that health response, whether it's testing and triage centers, whether it is extra hospital beds, high care, etc. So we've put that in place. Now what we need to do is we need to create that balance. And, so we've got a disaster called the COVID-19 disaster. We've got to avert the jobs bloodbath. We've got to avert the humanitarian disaster. So it's about finding the balance.
Yeah, Premier, I'm really sorry to do this to you, but I'm going to ask you to be very, very brief. I am out of time. But do you not risk then, if you go along with that thought of the professor, do you not risk your government being accused of racist behavior because it is known that in these densely populated areas, it's black people who reside there?
Well, I mean, if you look at our densely populated, yes, agreed, but also have a look at where those hotspots are. That's not necessarily only the case. I mean, from Tygerberg to Khayelitsha in the city, but also, of course, Witzenberg out in the rural areas. And of course, it's also about finding the balance between jobs, the economy, starvation, and of course dealing with COVID-19. And it's also our focus. We zoom in to wherever the hotspot is. It doesn't matter, where it is. We will zoom in and give our absolute maximum to making sure that we deal with the spread of the virus, and that we make sure we mitigate as much as possible. And of course, this is going to come to every single city in South Africa. We're a bit ahead of the curve here. And of course, everyone's got to come up with plans on how we're going to deal with it. And we have put our plans on the table, not only to the province, but to the country. This is what we're going to be doing, and this is how we're going to be doing it. And absolutely, we will put everything we can to focus into mitigating the risk as much as possible.
Premier Ellen Winde, that's the Western Cape Premier. Thanks indeed for